Hey, it's me again. This is actually, I'm recording this after I've come back upstairs from making the soap and cleaning up, because I wanted to tell you before you even start watching the making of the soap. I caught myself towards the end when I was giving you the total superfat. I mean, I know you can add, but I misspoke, and when I was telling you that I added 6% upfront in the formula and added 3 extra percent after the cook, 6 and 3 does not equal 6, it equals 9. So the total superfat for the soap, both before and after, equals 9%. And I did use Apricot Kernel oil, one of my favorites for superfatting. I use the spray bottle a lot with the hot mist water in it, and it is a fine mist. And someone asked me on one of the videos if spraying it with water adds too much water, and the answer is no. I suppose you could overdo it if you had a mist that wasn't real fine, but to me, when you're lifting the lid and stirring, you're losing some of your moisture anyway. So a fine mist is just keeping the sides, helps you to keep the sides scraped down without getting those crusty pieces in your finished soap. And it also keeps the top from getting that dry, crusty scale to it. So that's a tip that Valerie Mosher with Shellbrook Handcrafted Soaps in Nova Scotia taught us a good while ago, and I was so thankful when I saw that, because it does make a big difference in hot process soap making. Valerie is full of knowledge and tips, and she doesn't charge a dime for them, so I'm thankful to have found her channel, and I'm thankful that she's become my friend as well as my soaping friend. So we enjoy lots of conversations. So I encourage you, if you're looking for an excellent teacher in making hot process soaps especially, then search her YouTube channel because you'll learn a lot. Another one of my favorite soap makers I did mention was Holly, and I think it's Capia Mera Soaps. She's in the deep southern part of Tennessee. Love her videos, love her accent. She makes gorgeous designs, and pretty designs and simple designs, but she's just a natural, and her videos are so easy to watch and relaxing. Learned a lot from her. And then another one of my favorites is Tiggy from Future Primitive Soaps. She's from the UK. I haven't seen one from her for a couple of weeks. I hope she's doing okay over there. But she does mainly cold process, and she's a trip. She just puts it out there. She's genuine. She comes up with some really unique names, but that's where I learned the chopstick swirl. She does cold process soaps, but she does kind of a drop swirl, and then takes her chopsticks, and she gets some really pretty designs as well. So I just encourage you on your soap making journey to don't just stop with hot process or cold process, because you can learn from all soap makers. They have different techniques, different tips, different pointers, but those were just a few of mine, and I wanted to tell you about them and correct that mistake. I get tongue-tied. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I do hope you enjoy the video. It is a little lengthier this time because of the introduction and then this editing part about my mess up. So just fast forward what you don't want to see, and I'll see you for the cut. Good evening, everybody. It's Valerie. Long time no see. I have not made a video in, I don't know, the last time. Haven't made soap in going on 3 weeks. lot going on here. Well, number one, my husband fell, it'll be 2 weeks, it was 2 weeks today, and broke his ankle in 2 places, and it's going to require surgery, which will be this Friday. So he is down here in the walkout basement where it's easier for him to get back and forth. So my soap room is down here as well. So that, and just feeling uninspired, I guess you would say. I'm very bare. You can see my shelves. I don't know if I can zoom you in without knocking the camera down, but I am pretty low. And my customers are needing their soap. So what I'm doing today, I've also been tweaking, not so much recipes, but combining. I have several soaps that kind of seem like the same theme, and I've just been looking and going over my inventory and thinking, you know, I could use the same ingredients in this soap and just you know, have one soap instead of 2 of the same nature. There may be one ingredient different in one of them versus the bare goodness that I sell, which has really been popular. Another favorite of mine and my customers is Lavender and Orange, and so I'm making that one today. I'm actually doing a large batch of that I can use like colorants in, and I'm going to split the 4-pound batch into 2-pound loaves after the cook, and I'm going to color. It's I'm making my herbal soap, and that's going to be Rosemary, Lavender 4042, and a little Litsea Cubeba. And then the other half is my Lavender and Orange. Both are really popular. The herbal one didn't go very well at first, but once it caught on, it took off. So I'm going to make a 60-ounce batch and split it off because my colors are going to be so much the same, and do it that way. I am going to be attempting to use a different colorant today. I ordered some pumpkin powder from Brambleberry, and it came last week, so I'm going to use that one in my Lavender and Orange soap. This is going to be what they consider an all-natural soap, as natural as we can get it. And let me get my formula for you. I'm using 40% tallow, beef tallow, 40% olive oil, 12% coconut oil, and 8% castor oil. And I'm going to be soaping at 36% water. So the design's not going to be very, you know, in depth, because I don't think I would have the time to do that. Never know. We just never know. And as I said, in half of the batch, I'm going to be scenting with Rosemary, Lavender 4042, and a little bit of Litsea Cubeba. And in the Lavender Orange, I'm using Orange 10X. Oh, my favorite. Anything that I make with orange flies off the shelf. And then the other half is going to be Lavender 4042. I'm not a huge lavender by itself fan, but I do love it mixed with other things, and especially the Lavender 4042. I'm going to be superfatting this up front at 6% and an additional 2, 3 maybe after the cook of Apricot Kernel oil. Another one of my favorites, especially for superfatting. What else can I tell you? I have my oils heating, and I have colloidal oatmeal and kaolin clay in there. And my liquid is going to be just water, and I'm going to be using Mulberry Silk in there. And of course my usual coconut milk and yogurt and apple cider vinegar, honey, and sodium lactate after the cook. That will help boost the bubbles. Although this isn't bad, it has a bubbly number of 18, but it also has a 35 creamy number, and I feel like that's going to be fabulous. I wanted to share with you. Let me get it. What I call Love Me Tender. I made this a couple months back, and I scented it just with a little bit of lavender, 4042, because it's so good for sensitive skin, baby skin, elderly skin. My skin's getting elderly too. The aspirin and medicine I take, I barely hit myself and get these little bruises. But anyway, I did not take my facial bar, a new facial bar, upstairs. So the last 2 days I have forgotten it, and I used this because I had this on my tub. My face feels amazing, and this is I think it's like 75% olive oil, very few oils. So I've decided that when I make my facial bar again, I'm going to be using this formula, but my olive oil is going to be calendula infused, and my liquid is going to be rosehip tea. And that's what I'm going to use for my facial bar, because I can't tell you how amazed I was when I mean, it was like there was nothing on my skin, and it is so creamy and lathery. It's really, if this one would catch on, I think I would be making this all the time. But anyway, just wanted to throw that out at you, and I think it's 75% olive oil as well. So instead of standing here rambling about everything that's going on, and I'm going to get the rest of my ingredients measured out. Like I said, it's been probably 3 weeks since I've made any soap, and I feel a little rusty, a little discombobulated, so I need to really concentrate on measuring out my other additives, so that when my oils are heated, I'll be ready to go. So I will see you back. Well, for you, it'll just be a split second. Well, I'm ready to get started. I have my gloves on. My goggles are going on. I have my long sleeve shirt on. I'm about to burn up. Our weather went from summer back to late winter, early spring temperatures, and cool and rainy today. It's like 65 and rainy. And I'm about to burn up down here. But anyway, my oils are at about 160. 168. My crock pot is on low. My lye is completely dissolved. And in here I have my Mulberry Silk, and it's completely dissolved as well. So I'm going to go ahead and add it. It's about at 180. And we're going to get started. I'm pouring it down the shaft of my stick blender just to help keep it from splashing up and creating less air bubbles, hopefully. I don't think air bubbles are quite as important in hot process as they are for cold process, but you know, you could always take precautions not to get too many. So just going to stir it around a little bit. Probably won't take you through the entire cook, but just bring you back at different stages. So here we go. Just excuse the noise. I just start in little pulses to get things started. I don't know how fast this will come to the trace that I like, which I usually like to get a medium to thick, because I haven't used this formula before. If I have, it's been a while, but I didn't find it in my other recipes. I like the idea of using less oils, especially those, and butters, especially those that we know are really good and nourishing and moisturizing for our skin. Plus, it helps me keep my costs down to my customers because they love the soap. But with everything else, you know, money doesn't grow on trees, and I want to provide them with a quality product at prices that we can afford. And I'm at a thin trace. You can see, I don't know if you can, but you can see the little line lingering on top when I do this. And I just give it a stir. Some people use a spatula and, you know, move the spatula and this at the same time. I don't find myself that coordinated, so I just do it this way. But I'll try this. Yeah, see, I'll just do it my way. I'm at a nice medium trace. Go just a little further. I think that's good. It's medium to thick. And I don't think I mentioned to you when I was telling you what I was going to be coloring with. In the Lavender and Orange bar, I did mention the pumpkin powder. But for the purple, I'm going to be using purple Brazilian clay, which I love. I love the soft, muted colors of natural colorants, and rose clay and purple Brazilian clay are two of my absolute favorites. And in the plain lavender, the herbal bar, it's going to be no color whatsoever, just a plain white. Well, I take that back. I may use a little bit of purple just on top, but leave the majority of the rest of the bar white. Just something so wholesome and comforting about a plain white bar of soap. And, you know, it's true that sometimes there's elegance and simplicity. And in the world we're living in today, simplicity is vital. Something that we just take for granted because nothing is simple anymore, is it? So I'm going to let this cook, and I'm going to bring you back when it starts to cook, and I'll see you soon. I think this batch is going to be one of those, as you can see, that's just going to fold over on itself rather than a big volcano. Because this side is really starting to do that. I think you can see that. So I'm just going to keep an eye on it and bring you back when it does a little more. Okay, it's coming on over and might get a little volcano, so I'm going to go ahead and just start stirring it down. And my crock pot is still on low. And because it's a 4-pound batch, I went ahead and switched to the bigger spatula. I love stuffed mica spatulas. And I am at what we call applesauce stage, with some separation, but nothing major, just normal stages. I know when I first started making hot process and it would get to this point, and I would just freak out because it was like, it's not supposed to look like that, but it is. And you can either whisk it or you can stick blend it if you're in a hurry and bring it back together. I'm just going to see how this does for a few minutes before I make that decision. And see if it's something that I want to work my arm out with, or if I do think I need to stick blend it to go faster. So that's what we have going on. Oh, I'm still hot. It is so hot down here. And I don't know why the air's on, but it's just so humid. So anyway, be back when it does the next thing. Well, it's been about 5 minutes and it's still separating and folding over. And because it's getting later in the evening, I want to go ahead and get this done. So I'm just going to take my stick blender and just give it pulses all throughout the crock pot. And it might work into a volcano. And I do that to keep from burning my stick blender out. But see, it's coming back together. And I feel like it will volcano. So I'm going to get ready for that. I have my hot water bottle here. That'll help with it. But the main thing is, if you start to get a volcano, if it is, you know, not ready to just burst out of the pot, just stay calm and stir. And you shouldn't have a problem. But that's one reason that it's important to use the right size crock pot. Don't fill your crock pot to the rim with oils and water, or catching volcanoes will be a lot more difficult. Or containing them, I should say. And I'm still at applesauce, but it is getting ready to transition, it looks like, over into mashed potato. And that took about, what, 2 minutes? And I probably would have stirred it with the whisk and it would have taken me 10. I'm just guessing. Each formula is unique and different in how it responds. But it's getting a really pretty glossy color. And I'm seeing some mashed potato, and I'm going to go ahead and take the temperature, not because I have to, but because I like to. I like to know what temperatures I'm dealing with. And when taking the temperature, it's always important to stir and get it from the bottom, because that's where your most accurate is. And I'm at 219. And it's still wanting to rise up, but it is really nice. It's glossy and it's mashed potato. It's a cross between mashed potato and Vaseline, which is a good thing. And I went ahead and turned my crock pot off just because I think it's hot enough. I'm going to keep it in the cooking unit, but I am going to spray it down, and that does help contain it, see? You can see that Vaseline and mashed potato. So it will be soaked in just a few minutes. And that entire cook took about 12 minutes. From trace to now. And I'm calling this Vaseline. Maybe a little bit of mashed potato left in there, but by the time I get my superfats and things over here, I'd say we're good to go. Of course, I will Sap Test. I do that all the time. I never just assume. Give it a final, give my sides a spray to help keep the crusties down. Cover it back up. Get rid of my stick blender. And I'm going to go and get my additives. Okay, I've taken the crock pot out of the cooking unit. I have a little bit, I've taken my long sleeves off because I did test it and it was completely neutral, as were, I took my gloves off because I don't need it. But when you do a Sap Test, I take and stir a little bit around, not just from the top, but down in the middle, and put it on my popsicle stick, mash it flat, and let it cool, and then I touch it to my tongue. No zap, it just tastes like soap. So we are golden. And the first thing I'm going to add is my hot superfat of Apricot Kernel. It's been on the stove. And that's 3%, in addition to what I added in the formula, which was 6%. So all total, this recipe is superfatted at 6%. And I just mix it in really well. And my temperature is at 206. So the next thing I'm going to add is my yogurt. And I'm going to be, there, it's 4 tablespoons because it's 1 tablespoon per pound of oils. And this is a 4-pound batch. And it's vital that you stir this in really well so that you don't get cooked yogurt. I've had it happen. It's not pretty. You can't get it out. So you just have to stir and stir and stir. I use my yogurt several different ways, but most of the time it's my second additive after the cook. It's usually that or then the coconut milk. But what I like is I add it at room temperature. And I think it helps to start cooling things down to where I feel comfortable adding in my honey and apple cider vinegar. And I don't do that till it's below 175 to keep it from scorching. So it looks like my yogurt is mixed in well. I don't see any specks of it anywhere. And now I'm going to add in my hot coconut milk, and this is 4 ounces that I reserved from the cook. I held it from my lye liquid. And again, I add this slowly because it too will cook. And I add, usually when I save my milk back, it's like an ounce per pound of soap. So this was a 4-ounce batch, so I added 1 ounce of coconut milk per pound of oils, which is 4 ounces. And again, this is a 36% water formula, so I don't know how. Fluid is a term that I don't use regularly because they aren't always. Sometimes they are, but they're more manageable, workable, and sometimes they're pourable. It just depends. But this one's thick, but I expected it to be. But usually when I add in my apple cider vinegar, my honey, and my sodium lactate, things really do smooth out and thin up some. So we'll see what happens. Just want to make sure I get that really incorporated so I don't have any cooked pieces running through my soaps. I want to take the temperature from the bottom, and I'm at 177. So, because I want this to be below 175, I'm going to give it a little spray. It's very fine mist and the water is hot. And I'm going to cover it up to keep it from getting real crusty, and come back when it's ready to add my honey and vinegar and sodium lactate. Okay, I'm down to 167, and in here I have 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar per pound of oil, so there's 4 tablespoons, 4 tablespoons of honey, because that's 1 tablespoon per pound of oil, and then 1 tablespoon of sodium lactate. And this has been warm on the stove as well. So I'm just going to add it in. And this is just the way I started adding it a couple of years ago, and it works for me. I did try adding it, the sodium lactate by itself, and that didn't work for me very well. But then again, I usually go by teaspoons or tablespoons instead of percentage, just because that's the way I learned. So if I added more, it might make a difference. But that, you know, that's not bad. Pretty happy with that. I can get a decent design, because it's not going to be much of one. It's just going to be some layers and what? Oh, and a chopstick swirl. And then the other one is just going to be poured into 1 loaf. Okay. I'll take it. I'm going to spray it down again. Just to keep it moist. And bring you back when I'm ready to color. Okay, I have my pumpkin powder and my essential oil in here, and my Brazilian clay and essential oil in here as well. So now I'm just going to take and scoop my hot mixture. And hope I can get this even. This is a boring part, so feel free to move on if you'd like. And then I'm just going to pour a little bit of a layer of white I'm leaving it unscented, the white part, because I need this for my plain. Bang it down for the air bubbles. And that's just a very soft yellow. Pretty. And that was 2 tablespoons. I may add the rest of it. I mean 2 teaspoons, I'm sorry. It has really no odor. Kind of looks like pumpkin puree. And I just dissolved it with hot water. Cool. I like that. It's good to know. And then in here is my purple Brazilian clay, which I love. Get where you can see. Cover this back up. Okay. I'm just going to add a layer to this. I'm going to add a layer of the yellow. You can't see. Try this. So I have my white. I have my purple. Now I'm going to add my yellow. And that's really pourable. And that is really a pretty color. See? Isn't that pretty? And then I'm going to go back with some more lavender. And then a little more yellow. Then I might top it off with just a little bit white. Okay. And I'm going to get my chopstick. And hope you can see this. I'm going to start and I just go in and just give it little swirls, and then I'm going to come back and do the same thing, and that's all. And now I'm going to take what's left of this. Actually, I think I'm going to say, well, no, I'm not. Put this on top. And finish with this. Oh, I just love this. The longer I use it, the longer it sits, the more I like it. Glad I tried it. Pumpkin powder for yellow, folks. Now I'm going to give it a spray. And then come in and just do some little curly cues or little S's or something. I'm not great with tops, but I truly am starting to embrace more what I get. Because what choice do I have? Okay. Lavender and orange. And I'm going to break and go get my other mold for my plain, and I'll be right back. Okay, all I did was add my herbal blend to my plain white batter. Stirred it up real well. And it's still workable. I'm simply scraping like this because it's just easier with this big crock pot to scoop it rather than try to pour it. It would pour fine. I almost used some, excuse me, I almost used a little bit of coloring, but I'll tell you, I watched Holly from Capamera, I can't, but she makes the prettiest natural soaps. And one of her first ones was lavender in a plain white bar. And she just embellished it with a purple ribbon. It was the simplest, prettiest soap. So that's where I got the idea for this. And I'm just going to go in like I did the other one. I sprayed it down and just make some little designs, little curly cues on top. And I don't know that I'll get this cut tonight. I may, but I hate to come down here and disturb my husband once he gets to sleep with that ankle. Maybe if I sneak down. I don't know if I'll be able to sleep if I don't get it cut, but here it is, 8:35. And that's it. Smells wonderful. So I will see you when I cut. Thank you for joining me. Okay, I'm going to do the lather test on my lavender and orange bar. Actually, it has a little bit of the herbal in it as well because I just combined the scrapings from the crock pot and the containers. So there's some nice bubbles, but you're going to see it's about to work into a luscious, thick, rich lather. If you want to get the true lather, you need to make sure that your hands are wet. It's just so soft and thick. And this will only get better with each day, with each week. It's just amazing. I love that. And that's 50% tallow and 40 tallow, 40 olive oil, 10% cocoa butter, and 10% coconut oil. No cocoa butter, but it's castor at 10%, coconut oil at 10%, 40% olive oil, and 40% beef tallow. It's getting late. I need to go to bed. But I just couldn't do it until I had cut these. So, there you go. I'm ready to cut lavender orange. And it's been about 3 hours in the freezer. And my plain lavender herbal mixture is over here. So I'm going to go ahead and do this cut because I just could not go to sleep wondering what it was going to look like. And my yellow is still yellow, but it's a pretty pale yellow, and I'll show you when I cut it. I don't want to get them too thick, but I like to offer a nice size bar. There you go. It's just a really pale, muted yellow, and the Brazilian purple clay is muted as well, but I do love it. Just a nice, simple design. These are pretty. Nothing spectacular, but just a nice little wispy swirl. Oh, I like this one. I love this one. This one's my favorite. See if I can get a match to that one. Little air pocket there. Yep, there's the match. It's a pretty one too. Oh, I love that. And that. And that. You can see more of the yellow. I highly recommend the pumpkin powder for yellow. And I wipe down my cutter each time to keep drag marks down. And the end pieces start to get a little weird, but that's a pretty one. And this I'll cut into sample bars. My customers love sample bars. Now I'm going to move on to the plain white, which won't be anything but plain white. It does look like I see a little bit of something. It might be the honey. Cut off an end piece. That smells nice too. Just pretty. I think that is like my honey and apple cider vinegar maybe didn't get fully incorporated, but I like it. So there won't be anything to knock your socks off with that bar. Yep, that's what that is. That's my honey. That one has a few little air pockets, but I can work that out. And I banged that down a lot. Oh well. Okay, well, I'm getting tired, and I'm sure you're tired of watching and listening to me ramble, so I'm going to cut this off and head to bed. Good night.